Dr. Vicki Dashley, and I'm a veterinarian at TLC Animal Hospital, and we're going to talk about birds today in honor of National Bird Health Week. Joining us is Bacon, who's a Quaker parakeet, also known as a monk parakeet. So the topic today is just going to be general, how our birds as pets. And birds come in various shapes and sizes. The most common that we see as pets are going to be varieties of parrots. Parrots are going to have the curved hooked beak. Sometimes we can see smaller birds that don't have a hooked beak, such as finches and canaries. They belong to a different classification, but a lot of the information is the same. So birds are very pretty, they're very intelligent, they're very fun to watch, they're very good members of the family, but there are some challenges. In particular, birds are naturally very vocal and they can be very loud. Some of it's a natural behavior out in the wild in flocks. They have something called contact calls, where they're calling other members of the flock, and that usually happens several times a day. Sometimes they can develop screaming behaviors for attention or as a maladaptive behavior if they don't have enough enrichment or there's other potential issues with the husbandry. Larger birds do tend to be louder. So for example, macaws, which are one of the larger species, you can hear them potentially screaming from down the block. So just kind of keep that in mind. Birds are also very naturally curious. They use this little beak to chew on things, so they can be quite destructive. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to things like baseboards, electrical cords, furniture, things like that, especially the larger birds with the larger beaks. Birds are also very messy. They're very messy eaters. It's normal for them to throw food all over the place. They lose feathers when they molt, and that can sometimes be quite dramatic. They also have what's called powder down, which is kind of that dusty material. That's normal for many bird species. In particular, cockatiels and cockatoos can produce quite a bit of powder down, and that can create a lot of dust in the house and sometimes irritate allergies and things like that. Birds can sometimes bite. Sometimes that's an issue with them not being well socialized, negative behaviors that have developed over time. But even well-adapted birds can still nip or bite. So that's something that should be kept in mind, and the larger birds can potentially cause quite a bit of damage. Their nails are normally quite sharp and they use that to grip their perch. But the bigger birds with the larger nails on your skin, especially if you have delicate skin, can sometimes cause some issues. The other thing to keep in mind is the longevity of these guys. It depends on the species, but some bird species can live up to 60 years, and so that's a long time commitment, and that's something that needs to be considered if you're thinking about getting a bird as a pet. Because of these challenges, the average bird can have up to 7 homes over the course of their life. That's a lot of disruption in their environment, in their adopted flock and family. Other issues that can cause rehoming is going to be behavior problems as a result of not being properly socialized or having an enriched environment. Different species do have different needs and behaviors, so we do recommend before adopting or purchasing a bird to try to do some research on that particular species' natural behavior and environment, as well as their expected lifespan. Some species are more independent, so for example, Amazons tend to be a more independent bird. We see less behavioral feather picking and those sorts of issues with those species than we do, for example, cockatoos that can require a lot more attention on a constant basis. Some species are more prone to certain medical issues or behavior issues. So again, cockatoos and African greys as well are going to be our top two species for behavioral feather picking. Not all species of birds talk, not all individuals within a species talk. So if that's an expectation, then I would try to research and see which species are more likely to have that behavior. For the ones that do talk, you want to make an effort to be careful what you say around them. They're kind of like kids. They can repeat what they hear, and sometimes that can get you into trouble. Most birds are very intelligent. The intelligence can vary by species, but as a generality, parrots, you want to come into this with the mentality that parrots can have the intelligence and the mental capacity of a 5-year-old child, but the emotional stability of a 2-year-old. So this means that they do need a lot of care, they need a lot of attention, they need enrichment to avoid behavioral problems, and time and patience are essential. Birds are naturally social creatures, so unless there's already other birds in the household that can be considered this bird's flock, their flock is going to be the human family members. So that means that you're your bird's family, you're their friend, you're their mentor, and you're their provider. So it's your responsibility to fulfill their physical, mental, emotional, and social needs. So do strongly recommend doing your research, reaching out to your veterinarian, talking to the breeder, making sure that a bird is a good fit for you and your family before taking that step.